My name is Philip Temesco. I'm a graduating senior in biomedical engineering. I applied for the Truman last year and was a finalist.
And this year?
And this year I'm a finalist for the Fulbright to go to South Africa.
And I'm Liza Rubin. I'm a fourth-year psychology major, and I was the Drexel nominee this year, and I did not make it to the finalist round.
Truman is a scholarship for those interested in public service, but also more than that, it assists you in getting a grad degree in a field relevant to public service, and also allows you to make connections through an internship in Washington, D.C. With a whole variety of agencies and nonprofits.
Well, the application is very extensive, very time-consuming, and it really forces you to make connections with a lot of your experiences. You have to really be able to explain all the things that you're involved in that are obviously related to public service, but then also be able to connect those experiences to your long-term career goals. You also have to do very extensive research on what type of grad program you'd want to get to get to those career goals. So it's a lot of research, and if you don't really have a very clear idea of what you want to do, it kind of forces you to figure that out because you have to write very clear and concise essays about it. So.
And then just more towards the nuts and bolts of it, it's 15 parts. Some are as simple as explaining which classes are your favorite, writing a couple sentences about that, to actually writing essays about where you see yourself in 5 years, where you see yourself in 10 years, and culminating with a policy proposal. For me, the real trick to my application was tying together my past experience, which was just a whole variety of different volunteering experiences, importantly including a 2-year volunteering experience at a homeless shelter called Trevor's Place, and my academic career in terms of what I had finished in college, and then also goals, going into HIV science and getting a higher education in science. So that was the trick for me, and at the time of my application, I was just starting to do volunteer work at a place called Calcutta House, which is a nonprofit housing service for AIDS patients. So a lot of the connection since then has been informed by this Calcutta House experience.
So how did you put those things together?
Well, I see my service experience as important to my career goals because it has helped me keep perspective, maintain my empathy and motivation, and prevent me from getting too lost in academia. So I can understand from these experiences, maybe not entirely, but more about what's really important and what the scientific community, what the most pertinent problems that the scientific community could address are.
Which is what?
Well, for the example of HIV, which is what I did my proposal on, what I'm interested in, it's a difference of finding the next super expensive antiretroviral drug versus making a cost-efficient universal vaccine, for example.
All of the service that I've done at Drexel has been connected to issues of hunger and homelessness. So my long-term career goals, I want to work with juvenile delinquents, and so for me it was about connecting those experiences and recognizing that my interest is kind of in social justice and working with marginalized populations and things like that. So quite frankly, I still don't know the best route for me for after graduation of getting to my ultimate career goals, probably because I don't have my ultimate career goals totally set yet. The essays definitely helped because it just forced you to come up with something, you had to draw some kind of a connection and then write about it. And so those were things that I just hadn't thought about before. I had always done service, I always knew I was passionate about it, and then I was always passionate about my studies, but I never really saw any connections between them. until I started this process. So it definitely helped, but at the same time, kind of gave me more things to think about and opened more doors, and so, which is obviously helpful in the long run, but it just exposes you to, like, a different way of thinking about the things that you just do every day.
Why did you guys want to apply? Why did you apply for this?
I mean, I really only applied because people told me to. At first, that's really what it came down to. This is not something that if I had read about it, like on the website, and no one had ever talked to me about it, and no one had ever suggested it, I don't think I would have applied. Just because I just didn't know about it, I didn't know a lot about it, I did not think that my experiences were what they were looking for. But, I mean, I did see it as, like, a good opportunity, a good learning experience. Like I mentioned, like, it definitely helped me build connections between the experiences that I've had. So I was interested in getting that opportunity. And I had never really applied for a national thing before, and so I saw it as, like, a challenge, and I'm always up for a challenge, so...
Yeah, I'm actually very, very, very similar to what Liza just said. People recommended it to me. I didn't quite know what I was getting myself into. I'd like to think that a part of me in the back of my mind was saying, yes, this is a challenge, this is a good life experience, you should do this, but who knows, that this might be retrospect. But I think as I was getting through the process and writing the essays, and then particularly when I met the other finalists from the Truman, which is a long time to wait before you really see the benefit, I guess. I was really coming to appreciate how much this would mean in terms of an internship that's with a U.S. organization or agency that you would almost otherwise never get to work with, and that they're taking you in and really showing you what it's like to be a long-term employee here. That stood out to me as an incredible opportunity. And then, in addition to that, you get money. Wow, that's amazing.
What did it feel like to apply for this?
Very stressful. Stressful but again, that's because I don't have a clear idea of what I want to do. So for somebody who, knows what they're working towards exactly, and they have ideas of the types of programs they want to go into, I think it would be a completely different experience. But for me, just going into it, like figuring everything out as I went along in the process, I think that's what made it so stressful. So stressful, but then also manageable if you plan well and you dedicate the time to it. But also, like, interesting and exciting because you're drawing these connections and, it's motivating. It makes you want to pursue these things, and it really, if you're passionate about it, it kind of riles you up a little bit while you're filling it out. So, I don't know.
I think the application process for me was a real balancing act of taking time to really think about where I want to go, taking time to do research that didn't necessarily lead anywhere but was important for informing me, and sticking to a pretty strict deadline and cranking out those essays, tweaking them and polishing them repeatedly.
Take a stab. How many revisions?
Some essays that I felt more confident on, maybe 5. Some that needed a little more work. I had to start from scratch, maybe a couple times, and then I did maybe like 10 revisions.
I mean, I'd still be doing revisions now if the deadline hadn't passed. Like, I was not satisfied with my essays when I turned them in. I mean, I don't think I put enough time into it. I'll start by saying that. I think that, I was so unsure about whether or not I actually wanted to do it. I mean, I called Phil, like, a week before I don't know what stage of the process that was in, but it was pretty close. I was pretty close to being near the end, I think. And I was ready to just stop and, quit. And I think you had said that you also had that moment when you were doing it. I mean, you really have to commit to it. You have to really want it and really want to take the time for it. And I don't feel like I ever really got to that point. The whole time I was kind of thinking like, well, do I really have a chance with this? Is this going to be like worth my time? Like, you know, I was always questioning it.
A lot of my support network of people who I just talk to when I'm stressed out had to talk to me a lot during this period, and all different types of people depending on what roadblock I was running into. You know, sometimes when I was frustrated because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do with my life, people who are, you know, connected with my work and who I've talked to a lot about my life goals, those were the people who I need to sit down with and badger. And sometimes when it was just a matter of, I can't do this, then I just need, you know, the people who hang out with me and always are lighthearted and have a good time. So it just depends on what your problem is and you know, who in your support network you can talk to. One of the benefits I got out of Truman, and this was something I was told by a lot of people going in, including yourself, was that, you know, once you apply to one fellowship, the rest are easy. And I didn't really believe you.
Yeah, I don't believe you.
At any point during the process. But then when I started working on Fulbright, I was like, yeah, this is easy.
I don't believe you.
Try it.
Nope.
And then, particularly when I went to the Fulbright interview, and any interview since, man, this is easy. So I mean, that has been a tremendous benefit. And also, you know, part of that was learning how to prepare for a more intense interview where you're talking about yourself and your dreams. And
maybe I'll be saying these things next year, but for now. No, I do think that
I would have never believed that I would be saying these things.
the things that you're writing about with these essays, that's like your core, like the things that you are most passionate about. And most job interviews aren't like addressing, you know, like for co-ops and different lab positions, part-time positions, whatever, like those aren't things that are exactly in line with what you want to do. So you may not be as, you know, invested or like, I don't know. I think what makes the Truman application so intense is just that it's getting at the root of the things that you believe in the most. And so there's not always going to be like interviews or jobs that you're applying for that you're that passionate about. So it does, in that sense, make the other interviews like, oh, well, this is just a stepping stone. So that's helpful.
Through both application processes, really like tying together all my past experiences and, you know, making it into a trajectory into what I want to do in the future has given me really like a whole new level of confidence and direction in everything I've done in all of senior year and you know, towards the end of junior year, which is when I was applying for it. So it really has helped me a lot. And also just doing the research into figuring out programs, figuring out who's doing cool stuff that I'm interested in. All of that I first learned on Truman, and that's been incredibly important ever since.